Pour yourself a cold one and join us for a show filled to the brim with fun, entertainment.
Let's do this. Come on, Ozarks Amphitheater.
Information.
Jesus, take the wheel, but don't honk it.
And a little weirdness.
So, you into sports?
I used to be. Do you like sports?
I like pizza.
It's Happy Hour with DJ Kyle.
Welcome one, welcome all to Happy Hour presented by Jennings Insurance Group. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, DJ Kyle. For the next little bit, sit back and relax because we have a great show lined up for you. A little bit later in the show, we have our furry friends. We have a dog named Ziggy on the show. And about halfway through the show, we're bringing you Professor Jim Paisley. He's going to be telling us about the history of St. Paddy's Day. So you're going to want to make sure to catch that. And we have our good friend Becky Jennings up next to be telling us some very important information that you might need to know about insurance. All of that and so much more fun right here on Happy Hour.
At Jennings Insurance Group, we want you to have the best possible coverage and the knowledge to use it. We work with many insurance companies, but we work for our clients. Are you tired of being pushed into healthcare coverage you don't want or understand? At Jennings, we give you the right to vote. If you are looking for a consultant who will meet with you to explain your options, Jennings is the right choice. For many, healthcare coverage is one of the most important decisions. Make the right choice. Call Jennings today, 573-693-9443.
Hey, it's your good buddy DJ Kyle, and I want to invite you and all of your friends out to see me out and about on the town. We do trivia nights for those of you that love trivia. Come on out and see me every Wednesday night. I'm at Alley Cats down by the Strip at 6:30, and Thursday nights I'm at the Highlander Public House in Camdenton at 6:30. Bring your friends, bring your family, bring the fun. It's a great time. We'll see you there.
August 17th, 2019, I was in a boating accident in Lake of the Ozarks. I was ejected from the boat, and the boat had come back around, struck me from my leg to my face. Matt, he would fight for anybody. He doesn't like the word no. Very knowledgeable, very down to earth. I couldn't be more happy.
If you've been injured, call your local experts. We never get paid unless we collect money for you.
Welcome back to Happy Hour. I'm your host, DJ Kyle. Happy Hour is presented by Jennings Insurance Group, and we are here today with Becky Jennings in her office and learning about some new things that she's been learning about. Becky, welcome to the show again.
Thank you.
So I know here at Jennings Insurance Group, you guys are always training, you're always bettering yourself, learning about the new things that are coming up. And I know that recently you just got back from a big conference in Washington, D.C. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your conference, your experience there, and even just the time that you were in Washington, D.C.? Like, what were some of the things that you've seen? And then we'll get into some of the stuff that you've learned while you were out there.
It was a very interesting trip. It's called our Capital Conference for an association that I belong to. It's called National Association of Benefits and Insurance Professionals. And we specifically really work on legislation both at a local level and at a national level with regard to health insurance. So we really lobby and petition on behalf of our clients on the things that are going on. So it was a really interesting year this year. A couple of things. I went the year that Trump was elected the first time, and there was tons of protesters. Every corner was full of protesters, from animal cruelty to things I don't even know what they were protesting about, all kinds of stuff. This time I saw no protesting. I saw one organized demonstration on the Capitol steps regarding Medicaid, but other than that, it was very quiet and the weather was beautiful.
Oh, that's nice.
So it was a great trip. The other thing that was interesting this time was usually when we go in and we talk to our legislators, we're lobbying specifically on certain bills, Senate bills and House bills. There was no bills to lobby about and point to specifically.
And that's unusual,
it's
right?
It's very unusual. And I think a lot of it has to do, we have a lot of new legislators who aren't really ready to introduce legislation yet. And the other reason I think is probably because we had just, they're still getting people appointed into different positions and things like that. And I just think it took a little longer this year for one reason or another.
Yeah.
So you can speculate on that if you want to. So it was just a very different, a different visit this year. So as we talked about what we wanted to really talk to our legislators about, it really had to do with more conceptual, specific things that are happening now, not specific to bills or legislation that's being introduced.
And that's probably good, because then you could really get down to the nitty-gritty and not have to worry about all the other things that are flying around you at the same time.
Well, what was interesting is there was a couple of offices we went to where we met with legislative aides, and they're moving. Everybody's moving offices and moving in, and they've got furniture stacked everywhere. So we took a couple of meetings out in the hallway. So that was interesting.
Cool.
I've never done that before. And so I've gone probably 8 or 9 times to this particular conference to Washington, D.C. to talk to our legislators. And we've gotten several things passed and moved forward over the years, which has been very rewarding. And one of these days we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But for today, I'll tell you some of the things that we visited about. One of the things that we talked about is telehealth. So what happened, there was a lot of provisions that happened during COVID, and some of those provisions got extended for periods of time. And telehealth is being no cost, that was a provision of COVID. And so first dollar coverage was what was happening with regard to telehealth, meaning you didn't have to pay a copay to access a doctor through telehealth.
Okay.
And what that means is you're accessing a doctor online or by phone. That's telehealth. And so what's happened now is we've gone back to those are going to require copayments. And so what we want to see happen is we want to allow telehealth to be accessed at no cost. And so the reason we want that is because people will access their doctor sooner and get treated sooner, which is a benefit, and it keeps claims down a little.
Yeah.
In addition to that, you're not having people who are maybe immune compromised or something like that being, exposed to some
in an
serious
office or something.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And so there's a lot of reasons, and we're in a rural area, so there's great opportunity to be able to see telehealth doctors and not have to drive or whatever, go a long distance or what have you to see a provider. So that's one of the things that we thought is a good, easy compromise across the aisle. So we hope we see that happening. And then also one of the other things was what we call site neutral payments. What does that mean? Have you ever gone to a doctor and they order certain tests or something like that? And if you go to the hospital and get it done, say an MRI, you're going to pay one price. If you go to a doctor's office, you're going to pay another price.
Yeah.
If you go to an ambulatory surgical center type place, you're going to pay another price. What we would like to see is those prices across the board the same within a health system.
Yeah.
And without charging facility fees and things like that. So what we would like to see is kind of that more predictable and across the board having that more stable for consumers.
Where it's not a guess of what am I going to get charged from which place to which place. Yeah,
exactly.
that makes sense.
And then one of the other things that we talked about that actually would affect potentially quite a few of your viewers is the extension of the premium tax credit for the marketplace. So we've had an extension of those tax credits. So people are getting more tax credits today than what they are required to give. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what happens is when we take away that extra help, we find healthy people and young people tend to drop their health plan. Why do we care about that? Because then you have people that are likely to have more claims staying on the plan, and what that does is that causes premiums to increase.
Yeah.
So we would like to see those tax credits extended for a longer period of time, and maybe even potentially permanently, so that it becomes more affordable for people who need it the most. So.
Well, I'm glad and just I'm glad that there's people like you that are in this industry to better the industry. And like I said, you're always constantly doing training and stuff. And I know at this conference there was much more that you covered. So I feel like, can we talk about that the next time you come back?
We can, yes.
All right. Well, sounds good. Do we want to tell them what we're going to talk about this?
Well, we'll talk about some of the Medicare potential legislation coming up, and there'll be some really interesting things that we're working on, and I believe some of those things will happen in the next year or two.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we have more happy hour coming up, so don't forget, make sure you check out when Becky Jennings is on again for some more information from Becky Jennings and Jennings Insurance Group. We have more happy hour coming up right after this.
Jennings Insurance Group, your local agency, is here to help navigate your choices and remove the guesswork when it comes to health insurance and retirement solutions. You have the right to vote on your healthcare and financial future. Our licensed and trained agents are ready to talk with you today.
Hey, it's your good buddy DJ Kyle, and I want to invite you and all of your friends out to see me out and about on the town. We do trivia nights for those of you that love trivia. Come on out and see me every Wednesday night. I'm at Alley Cats down by the Strip at 6:30, and Thursday nights I'm at the Highlander Public House in Camdenton at 6:30. Bring your friends, bring your family, bring the fun. It's a great time. We'll see you there.
Dealing with fatigue, sleepless nights, and chronic pain? Meet Dr. Beck with 40 years specializing in pain management, clinical nutrition, and board-certified in neuropathy. Boasting new techniques to the industry, including a rib adjustment only available at Beck Wellness. New specialty treatments for headaches, frozen shoulders, peripheral neuropathy, plantar fasciitis, and their brand new knee rehab. All while keeping nutrition top of mind. Call or go online today. Your healthier, happier life starts with Beck Wellness Center.
Hello and welcome back to Happy Hour presented by Jennings Insurance Group. I'm your host, DJ Kyle. And, you know, we have St. Paddy's Day up on us very soon. So I decided to wear some of my St. Paddy's green and my hat that I got in Ireland. And we have with us Professor Jim Paisley here to tell us today the history of St. Pat's. Is that right?
You bet.
Now, I've always raised where St. Patrick was the one that drove the snakes out of Ireland, right? Isn't that?
There you go.
Is
that
this
was
true?
The story. No, of course
okay,
not. No,
well,
there's a lot of myths involved with the Irish. You know, and you've been there. You're our expert. But
Yep.
believe it or not, an Irishman might lie to you from time to time.
Huh?
Yeah,
Say it ain't
and
so.
This whole snake thing, it's kind of interesting. St. Patrick indeed was credited with banishing all the snakes from Ireland. The problem with that is that there are no snakes in Ireland and never have been. You can go back through the fossil records all the way back to the Ice Age, no snakes. And they are an island, so bottom line is, there's never been any snakes, but, it made for a great story. Like I say, there's no fossil record or anything, but yeah, you'll see some pictures here that, there he is, he's standing there with his cane and the snakes around his feet, but it's a good story.
It is a good story.
Yeah,
How did this come about?
It's just one of those things that, these stories like leprechauns and all these different things popped up.
Yeah.
And, everybody thought, well, that's a good story. And so off they went.
It probably got a little bit bigger as it was told every time.
Yeah, so let's talk about a few of those things, shall we? Okay, so St. Patrick's Day is celebrated every year on March the 17th, which we'll be doing this year, big parade, and I know your group's going to have out there doing a concert and
Yes, the Iberries at the Encore.
So, looking forward to all of that. It'll be fun. And then St. Patrick's, like I say, it celebrates the death of St. Patrick all the way back in the 5th century. Now, what our tradition of basically how we celebrate St. Paddy's Day is based on the old Irish myths and customs in that area. And basically, traditionally, families would attend church in the morning, and then in the afternoon, they got to have this big party, okay? Now, it's during Lent. For you Catholics out there, you had to abstain from meat and all of that, but St. Paddy's Day, that's an exception. And so you got to dance, and you got to drink and feast, and, you had a traditional meal of Irish bacon and cabbage, not corned beef, Irish bacon. Now, what happened was the patron saint, St. Paddy, he was born actually in England, of all places, and he was captured as a slave and taken to Ireland. And he worked as a slave during Roman times, and basically he was captured when he was 16. He later escaped, made it back to England, but he decided he was going to go back and convert Ireland to Christianity. So that's where we get St. Patrick, okay? Now, perhaps like I say, the most well-known legend of St. Patrick is that he explained the Holy Trinity using a clover. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Clover normally has the 3 leaves. We're familiar with the 4 leaf, but the 3 leaves, that was the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Again, so that's where the shamrock comes from that we use.
Okay.
So again, it's just a tradition that's been carried on. Now, since around the 9th or 10th century, Roman Catholic feast day of St. Patrick's, like I say, is on March 17th. And the first St. Patrick's Day parade, you want to guess where it was?
I would guess America.
It was.
Was
Very
it?
good, yes. But most people think New York. And actually where it was in St. Augustine, Florida.
Oh, I would have thought maybe Boston or something like that. So Florida.
We had a Spanish colony there, very good Catholics, and so they had their first parade there. And so basically the parade was a big hit, and then, as you know, parades became the big thing on St. Paddy's Day. Now, the one that we're all familiar with is the one that we have in New York every year. That's a party, okay?
Yeah.
And when that first started was in 1772, before our Revolution.
Huh.
And what it was is we had Irish soldiers who were serving in the English army, fighting for the English against the colonists, and basically they were homesick, and so they held a parade in New York City. Huh. And that became the tradition. Every year after that, New York held a St. Paddy's Day parade.
Just because they were homesick.
Just because they were homesick, right.
There you go.
Now, among the legends associated with St. Paddy is that he stood atop this hillside and banished all the snakes. And like I say, that's a myth. Sorry, guys.
Oh.
Yeah. But, it makes for a great a story, if you will. It's a good one, right? Now, the red-haired, green-cloth little leprechauns. There's another one. The little guys, right? Now, this one's kind of interesting in that the original Irish name for a leprechaun was lobacairn. And, it just basically what it meant was, in Celtic, was that it was a small-bodied fellow. All right? So you could make a nice leprechaun.
Yes, exactly.
A small-bodied fellow, right? And the belief in leprechauns stems from the Celtic belief that there were fairies. Okay, so they were little fairies running around, and that's where we got the leprechaun. And basically, they supposedly had their little magic powers, and supposedly they were cranky little souls. But they were responsible for mending the shoes of all of the other little fairies. So they were,
They were cobblers.
Cobblers, yes, very good. Then, what if I told you that leprechauns existed even before any of this started? There were 19th century Irish fables, okay? And they described the leprechauns as little short people who, were good shoemakers. And after they made money, because they were so good at making shoes, they would take their money and they would put it in a big pot, and they would bury the pot, and it was at the end of a rainbow. So that's where we get that one from.
Wow.
Yeah.
These all just go
the
together.
Pot of gold, right? Yeah. So you can see over time, it's like, well, here's another story we can add. This would be a good one, right? Now, where it really solidified in the United States, and I had to look at this one. There's a movie film, a Disney film called Darby O'Gill and the Little People. Darby O'Gill and the Little People. It's a Disney film. It came out in 1959. And if you can find it, or pull it up on, I know you can find it on YouTube or whatever, watch it. It's hilarious. Basically, it's an old Irishman who has a little leprechaun friend, okay? And the movie was released right after St. Patrick's Day and became part of the common folklore here in America. So if you get a chance, watch the Disney film called Darby O'Gill and the Little People, okay? Now, the shamrock, we talked about that. The 3-leaf clover. Again, supposedly, the original name for it was the Simroy. But basically, the Celts considered it a sacred plant in their heritage, and they used it for the description of the Trinity, okay?
Yeah.
Again, in the Catholic faith. Now, this meal that everybody eats, this corned beef and cabbage, we had that all the time when I was a kid, and I never quite could understand it, okay? Well, basically, like I say, in Ireland, they had bacon and cabbage, which I would probably prefer.
Exactly.
What happened is that Americans couldn't afford bacon. And so what they did is they would go down to the docks, and they used to salt the beef on board the ships, and they'd have leftover beef. And it was just pretty nasty stuff, but it was dirt cheap. So they'd go down to the docks in places like New York and Boston. They'd get the salted beef, and then they would take it home and they'd boil it 3 times just to get the salt out of it. And the last time they'd boil it with cabbage. And so corned beef and cabbage became our traditional meal, but it was because we couldn't afford bacon.
Because we didn't have enough money for bacon.
Yeah, makes sense. Irish are still smart. They eat bacon instead. You know. But,
is that where the term "bring home the bacon"?
Bring home the bacon.
I don't know.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. You know. So So bottom line is, it was again another tradition that we came up with. Also, the color green. The color green is associated with St. Patrick's Day, but originally the color was blue, all right? And it wasn't until later that Henry VIII is the one that claimed himself to be the King of Ireland in the 1500s, and his flag was blue. But when the Irish revolted against the English, their flag was green. And so the green symbolizes the Irish rebellion against the British.
Wow.
So again, all kinds of fascinating little stories. Now, one more I got to tell you, and I thought this just blew my mind. There are more Irish people in America than there are in Ireland. According to the census, there are 39.6 million Americans of Irish heritage, compared to 6.3 in Ireland.
Huh.
So we outnumber them, 5 to 1.
Yeah.
But there it is.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, so happy St. Paddy's Day, everybody.
Absolutely. Professor Jim Paisley, always great to have on the show. Thank you again for coming out and dropping some knowledge on us here on St. Paddy's Day.
Now it's time for a shot of Jameson
that's right.
and perhaps a Guinness, right?
Let's do both, right?
All right.
We hope that you have a fantastic St. Paddy's Day, and stay right here because we have more happy hour coming right up.
Jennings Insurance Group is your hometown agency giving you control over your choices in healthcare coverage and retirement. We use insurance as a tool to positively impact your life, giving you the peace of mind to handle whatever life throws your way. Our licensed agents are ready to offer you solutions today.
Hey, it's your good buddy DJ Kyle, and I want to invite you and all of your friends out to see me out and about on the town. We do trivia nights for those of you that love trivia. Come on out and see me every Wednesday night. I'm at Alley Cats down by the Strip at 6:30, and Thursday nights I'm at the Highlander Public House in Camdenton at 6:30. Bring your friends, bring your family, bring the fun. It's a great time. We'll see you there.
Welcome to another edition of Furry Friends. I am Megan Albers. This is Mary Meow Me Tilly, and we are out in the yard with Ziggy, who is a bundle of fun.
Yes.
Tell me about Ziggy.
Ziggy is a highly energetic boy. Yes. We have him estimated to be about a year old.
Okay.
And we have him listed as a Dalmatian mix. I just want to reiterate that anytime an animal like Ziggy comes in as a stray and we don't have any history on him or his lineage or anything like that, those breed listings are just our best guess based on their appearance and any other information we may have. So he was found by the cemetery in Versailles.
Okay.
I think I may have accidentally said Gravois Mills a while ago. But found by the cemetery in Versailles. We had calls from several different people, like, hey, can you help this dog? And fortunately, we had room at the time, which isn't always the case.
Yeah.
But he was brought in. He's been doing great. He is now neutered, up to date on shots, heartworm tested, all that good stuff that we do before we put them up for adoption. He does great with other dogs. He loves to play with the balls. He loves to play fetch. But apparently he was playing fetch before we came out in the yard, but then after we came out, he was playing chase because Chrissy was throwing the ball and he would chase it across the yard and then turn around and run back for another one.
But he'd like to bring it back.
He loves the balls. He loves his toys. He doesn't seem to be a big toy destroyer like some of them are. But the one thing that they said to me that's a little more on the negative side is that he's going to need a lot of work on housebreaking. He is one that does still go in his kennel.
Okay.
But you also have to keep in mind that this time of year when it is so cold, they are closed in a lot.
Yeah.
And, maybe he just can't help it. Maybe if he doesn't have access to that outside, and you gotta go, you gotta go.
Yep.
So,
Makes total sense.
maybe once he's in a house and on a routine and everything,
Yeah.
he may fall into that pretty quickly. But we have no history on him or anything to know if he, where he came from, if he was ever in a home before or anything like that. As far as kids go, we don't anticipate any issues, though he is very energetic, so maybe not the little bitty ones.
I'm gonna knock him over.
Because he was a bit jumpy, when we first came out. Not real heavy, but he did come up, run up on us, and put his paws on us when we came out to the yard. I did ask about cats, and they said that he kind of just ignores the ones that are in the catio, doesn't really pay a whole lot of attention to them, but we haven't had him nose to nose with one yet.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of times if they ignore the ones in the catio, that's a good sign, that maybe they're not going to be so focused on them, so obsessed, that they wouldn't be able to live with one.
Yeah.
But, yep. Good boy, Ziggy. And he got his name, one of the girls named him when he came in because he has 2 different color eyes.
Yes.
So like David Bowie. So we decided to go with Ziggy.
There you go.
This is Ziggy Stardust here.
It works.
Yep, it works.
That's amazing. He is super sweet and super fun, and it seems like maybe if you just work off some of that energy, he'll try to be a lap dog. I know when we came out here, she said that he was a little bit of a lap dog.
That's what he was trying to do when we came out.
Yep.
So yeah, I feel like
he's
maybe
a lover.
Kind of like the one that we had last week that we talked about, maybe somebody who hikes, runs, something like that, somebody who's very out and very energetic, or maybe that has, older, like maybe school-age kids, that can help run some of that energy off with him. We don't specifically have him down for a fenced yard, but as energetic and playful as he is, that probably would not be a bad idea for him. There's no telling what he'd do if he saw a squirrel.
Right. Who knows? You find with cats, squirrels on the other hand could be different. So, of course, as always, I recommend come on down to the shelter, meet him. He's tons of fun, as you can see. Hello. And, hang out, love him up, and try to play fetch with him. Hopefully he'll bring it back for you. And of course, you can always apply to adopt at ozarkscatandcanine.com. Thanks so much, Mary.
Always.
That does it for another Furry Friends.
Hey, it's your good buddy DJ Kyle, and I want to invite you and all of your friends out to see me out and about on the town. We do trivia nights for those of you that love trivia. Come on out and see me every Wednesday night. I'm at Alley Cats down by the Strip at 6:30, and Thursday nights I'm at the Highlander Public House in Camdenton at 6:30. Bring your friends, bring your family, bring the fun. It's a great time. We'll see you there.
Being close to the water makes you more you. It's where the great unknown brings clarity. And letting go is how you really get going. Because only when you're on a Yamaha Wave Runner do you truly discover what you're made of.
Visit Surdak Yamaha at Lake of the Ozarks, 50 years strong.
Thank you so much for joining us this week on Happy Hour, presented by Jennings Insurance Group. And I want to say thanks to all of the guests that we had on the show. Of course, Becky Jennings from Jennings Insurance Group. Professor Jim Paisley, thank you so much for bringing us that informational spot about St. Paddy's Day. And of course, our furry friend, that dog named Ziggy. Hopefully we'll find a home for Ziggy very soon. Until next week, I'm DJ Kyle, and we will see you around the block. And let's do something this week. Let's be kind to one another. How about that? We'll see you guys later.